All right, and we are live on another dev chat with Algolia. How's it going today, Chuck?
Good. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing all right. I noticed before we started, and I made no change to it, but we've got these little cards down here, right? Like showing our
hmm
names and our Twitter handles and all that good stuff. And I swear, last week and like weeks before, yours was set up like this to say like Chuck Meyer parentheses your username, and then I went in before we started and I changed mine to go in that direction. I was like, oh, that makes sense, identify myself and then go to my handle, and then you joined, and I saw that it was reversed, and I was like, did I imagine that, or did I just do it and you thought the same thing and switched it to the way I did it?
I actually switched last week. I think I had
Mm.
it the other way around, and I liked yours, so I switched it to this way. And so I think we're just chasing each other now,
That
which
works.
is
I mean,
kind of fun.
it's fine. I could get like I said, I thought about going in and changing it, but I was like, no, let's just do it. Um, so there's been a lot of stuff happening in the past week. A few things. Well, a couple things launched, and we have a couple things coming this week in terms of some fun stuff.
Mhm.
But what's the first thing we want to talk about today, Chuck?
I think we should talk about our new developer hub.
A developer hub. What's a
Yeah.
developer hub, Chuck?
So a developer hub is a site where you can essentially take all of the different documentation, blog posts, demos, everything that a developer might need to work with a product or service, put them all in one place, make it super easy for you to get to them all.
So it's live, right? It launched yesterday, I believe.
Yeah, and
Can we take a look at it?
let's do that. And we know it's a essentially we should say that this is actually a relaunch, right, of our
True.
developer hub. So we've actually had a developer hub in the past, which means that we've learned our lesson from mistakes made in the past as well. So that's kind of the cool thing is, you think you know what your developer community wants, you put up a site, and then you kind of learn what they're actually looking for. And
An
so this
iterative
is
process. It's just like
exactly,
any software development.
exactly. It's never done on the first deployment.
Exactly.
So this is the new version of the site, and as you can see here, we start right away with some code, which I think is what every developer is looking for, right?
Get me to the code as fast as possible, right?
Mhm. So we talk a lot. If you've used Algolia before, we talk a lot about sort of the different steps that you need to do in order to get up and running, right? Because we're a managed service, we need your data. We need the information, the index of the information that you want to be searchable on your website, right? And then you need to build some sort of front end for interacting with that information. And you also need to put analytics on the back end of that, right? So we want to be tracking, what was a successful search result for your user? Was it the first one? Was it the third one? How do you improve that over time? And so what we've done here is we've actually given some little code snippets for each of those stages, right? So say you're like me and you like writing backend code in Python.
Mm.
Here's a little bit of code for getting setting up a connection to your index and dropping a record right into it with just a few lines of code. And then say you're ready to start building the front end. Probably going to do that using some flavor of JavaScript. I feel like React is where a lot of our folks live, right?
Yeah.
So here you go. Here's just a little bit of React code with some components in there to actually set up an instant search box. And then again, the analytics, which is the thing that we kind of maybe skimp on sometimes, right? Kind of the leg day of coding here. Actually going back and closing that feedback loop and getting more information. Well, you can do that right here as well. Once again, we can just throw in a little bit of JavaScript code to make sure that we're capturing those events when a user actually does click on a result. So I think that's pretty cool. It's a nice place to start. But where do you go from there? And here you can kind of scroll in and you can see a little bit more information about kind of all the different integrations that are available. There's a nice search interface here. It's a good thing to search for in here, Brian. Maybe
You could look up Vue or you're doing,
there's
yeah.
React. Let's try Vue. Let's see WordPress. Oh, WordPress. I wonder what WordPress does. There's our WordPress integration right there. And you can obviously slice and dice this. You can look at things that are um, community contributions, which, by the way, we're always looking for new and interesting integrations. If you've integrated an open source product or anything with Algolia, and you think it would be useful to other folks, please do let us know.
Mhm. You can also to mention something from a few weeks ago. You can go to algolia.com/exchange and go to the code
Mhm.
exchange, and you can put some things into our repositories there and kind of promote your own code there as well.
Yep. Yep. So we go from integrations into code samples. These are kind of ready-made solutions. And then from there, kind of starting to think about some more ideas you can get here. We can look at some projects. Some of these live within the Algolia GitHub. Things like our autocomplete library, which we've used several times on this
Oh yeah.
stream, and some of the community projects as well.
Mhm.
And then coming down to the bottom here, we get into blog posts and finally events. So you can see some of the live streaming sessions that we've done in the past, and hopefully we'll do again in the future once we
Yeah.
get through the holidays here.
Holidays are always fun. So one thing I noticed there, and I think we should continue touring um, the hub a little bit here, but that one of those new blog posts is something we're talking about today too, and it got me kind of excited, but that's fine.
Sure, we
We
can
can just
go
keep on
back on
moving.
there. Yeah.
Algolia coding challenge. What what in the world? A topic for later.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Just a little tease.
So scrolling through kind of the rest of this, you can see you kind of get just about everything you need here. There's a search integrated into it that searches across the entire site. Um, opportunities to go further into the documentation. Like say we do want to kind of, where's our React integration? Let's go back to that. I was just playing with this earlier today. Yeah. Oh, React wasn't made by community. It was made by us. I mean, React wasn't made by us, but
Well, no, but the React components were made by us.
Mhm. So each of these integrations has its own landing page. You can see a little bit more information about it, including kind of what versions of the product you would use. There's a little bit of a code sample for each one, right? A couple of ideas for kind of getting started and up and running, and then you can see some solutions that were actually built using React. So if you want to get something that's maybe a little bit more complete to kind of start from, we can say like jump into this e-commerce starter here and you can pull this in and you can sort of start from a sample e-commerce site. So rather than having to start from ground zero, you've got something a little bit built that you can then start modifying to your heart's content.
Yep. Yeah, having kind of some best practices built in where you don't have to think about them and you can just kind of, it's not fully copy and paste. You're going to copy and paste some of it, but like having things built by Algolia that you can then just kind of use. I think there's a lot of peace of mind that comes with that, which is nice to have around.
Oh yeah. Here's another one kind of around media. So again, kind of thinking about the differences between am I using this to search across products or searching across content, right? So there's just a lot of kind of different ways to kind of navigate around through here. And obviously, you can still drill directly into the documentation if that makes more sense to you. But this is a really great place to kind of start to explore the art of the possible
The
for
art
Algolia.
of the possible. Hopefully we don't go beyond the art of the possible into the art of the impossible, but I think we could do that too potentially, or the space between the possible and the impossible.
Yeah. I mean, one space I haven't really pursued too much up to this point is mobile applications, right? We've got some
True.
interesting things with compiled languages and things like that. It's really interesting to see, like, I wonder what happens if we drive in. Let's see what we'll talk about here with our Android stuff. Oh, that didn't kind of, let's see. Maybe is that in the integration section?
Integrations, yeah.
Let's try this. There we go. Cool. So we can see, oh, we're actually recommending that rather than using a direct Android, we use our Kotlin. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a little bit more
Right on.
focused
So
into it.
Developer
Yeah.
Hub. Congratulations to all the folks that put this together. This is for you, the developers. So let us know what you think of it. Let us know what's working, what could be better. Again, this is V2, but we're perfectly willing to move on to V3 or however many it takes to get you exactly what you need to get up and running as quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And you can let us know in chat here today, or you can send Algolia a message on Twitter at Algolia, or as we mentioned before, we're both pretty responsive on Twitter, so you can hit us up at BRob and at Chuck M, and just let us know. Give us some feedback, and we'll get to the right people, and we'll get some changes made if there's anything that needs to be changed.
Oh yeah, it's really fascinating. I'm kind of digging in here.
You're getting distracted by all the cool stuff you can do.
This is so cool. Like, I don't, how many mobile apps have you made? I've only ever made one, and it was in a boot camp, and it was a lot of fun to do. But
I have not made any. I've done a Hello World in Ionic.
mhm.
I've done a couple Hello Worlds in a few different things, but I've never made an actual app. So
Mm.
I'm a web guy. I like the platform. I don't like the closed ecosystems and all that. But yeah,
I got one of those smartwatches, and now I'm like all excited. What can I do? What could I put on my watch? That would be kind of
I
fun.
had that exact same experience when I got one too. I was like, oh, I need to make something for it. I'm like, no, actually, I don't need to make anything for it. That takes a lot of effort. I don't want to do that. You could do voice search on it. You could create an Algolia index and then use the power of voice, since you can actually talk to the watch and do search based on that. That could be fun.
Oh yeah, very Dick Tracy
Yeah,
for us old
exactly.
people.
Yep. Cool. So, a couple things before we dig into the meat of our stream here today, which is going to be our coding challenge. We have a couple things coming up this week to talk about too, right? You've
Mhm.
got a stream on Thursday, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. I have a stream Thursday in the afternoon here in the Eastern time zone, 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm actually going to be streaming with the Battlesnake folks.
Mm.
So they have a live stream called Coding Badly. And I'm sure folks that have watched this stream before know I spent some time building a search driven Battlesnake. And the folks over there thought it was so amusing that they wanted me to come and kind of do it live for them. So we're going to be doing some live coding. My snake right now is pretty good at finding food.
Mm.
I built a search index that actually has all the different board combinations for looking for food. And so we might play around with trying to do something similar with avoiding other snakes and going and generating out some board combinations and making it a little bit smarter about being defensive when other snakes are around. So that's something
And
to look forward to, 4 p.m. on Thursday Eastern time.
how big is that search index right now?
That search index is about 16 million records for the food one. It
Hmm.
takes a little over an hour and a half to generate with the Python code that I built.
But how fast does Searchy, your snake, get responses from the index?
Yeah, that's the interesting part, right? Because once you've pre-built the boards and put them into an index, we're consistently getting results back in 200 milliseconds or less, which is well within the 500 milliseconds required by the API. So that's kind of fun, and that's another reason why I think maybe we can get another search in there to kind of look for snakes and kind of be a little bit more defensive and still make that 500 milliseconds, which I think is kind of
Yeah,
neat.
yeah. And then tomorrow, I will be at the 11 meetup. That's what's called, the all caps the 11 meetup. I'm going to be talking about serverless search. So using 11's serverless functionality, which is new in their 1.0 release, to do search fallback. So we have a lot of amazing JavaScript based front ends. And instant search is amazing. Autocomplete is amazing. But what happens when JavaScript's not available? Or what happens when maybe we push a change and I break my front end in some way? I want to make sure that you're able to still have a search experience. And if I'm on the Jamstack or if I'm publishing static sites, I don't have a server to render all of that. So
Mm,
this is an example of using 11 serverless with the Algolia API to do search in a serverless function in a meaningful and easy to design and write way. So I'm looking forward to that. The 11 meetup, I think, was actually just voted like one of the top meetups in the Jamstack space. So it should be pretty good. It's tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern.
oh, that'll be fun.
11dmeetup.dev is the URL for that.
Nice.
Yeah,
And we'll be posting these links over on our Twitter feeds as well, so you can
yeah,
kind of find them over
exactly.
there.
And then the meat of today is yesterday we started something, right?
Bum,
And Chuck,
bum,
you might
bum.
be best to walk us through what this is, and then we can start doing some live coding and try to actually complete one of these things.
Sure, sure. So, we're coming up on the end of the year and folks are starting to wind down a little bit. And this tends to be when folks have an opportunity to go and sort of play with technologies that they might not normally use or, have been on their wish list to play with for the entire year. Last year, I definitely got deep into the advent of code and kind of worked on some of my TypeScript chops there, which was a lot of fun. And we thought it might be kind of neat to do something like that with Algolia, particularly for folks that haven't used Algolia Search before. Give you an opportunity to kind of spin up a free account and maybe try and build some different interfaces. Sometimes it can be challenging to kind of find an excuse to use a technology. So we thought maybe we'd give you five. So I've got five
5
different challenges
excuses.
here. 5 excuses. There's 5 different challenges here, each of which would require you to build an Algolia front end against an index that we provide in order to answer a question here. And some of these are kind of nice, simple meat and potatoes, build an instant search interface, add some faceting, some basic stuff that if you've never used Algolia before, they're great places to start. But for those that are using Algolia already, there's some more nuanced stuff in here as well around doing date-based date range searches and geo search that maybe you haven't actually tackled before. And this is kind of a great excuse to kind of try and tackle some of those. So, given the time of year, this has all been given sort of a Santa theme. So the premise here is Santa's been working from home all year long, and he's feeling a little down in the dumps, as
Doesn't
maybe
Santa
others of us
always
are.
work from home? Isn't his little toy factory at the North Pole like legitimately his house?
It's legitimately his house. Yeah, he gets like this every year. The big guy.
Yeah,
I feel for him. I
understandable.
do, because I'm right there with him this year. But anyway, so he's looking for some inspiration, and we're going to take him on a journey of self discovery where he's going to kind of go through and accomplish some tasks and maybe take a little precation just to kind of
Ooh.
power up for the big day.
It's both a precation and a staycation, it sounds like.
Oh, it's definitely not a staycation.
Oh,
Santa's doing some traveling across these narratives. So.
nice.
But the cool thing for you is there are prizes. So we're actually going to be giving away a mobile phone drawn at random from those that actually are able to complete the 5 challenges and commit them
There's
to
some
a
committing.
repo.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that we can check out what you actually built. So there will be some committing and some completing. And then for
Yep.
everyone that does participate, we're actually going to make a donation to Hack Your Future, which is a really great charity that runs programs for basically refugees and other folks to kind of help them get started down the path of becoming developers. So pretty cool.
The URL for chat as well.
So you get to help others, maybe get a little something for yourself, and help Santa in the process. And we
Yeah.
all learn something along the way.
We we learned that the real search was the friends that we made along the way, Chuck.
Isn't that always true, Brian?
I think it is. I think it is. So yeah, there are 5 basic challenges. There's also a
Mhm,
bonus for each of them. But we thought for those of you who tune in today and hang out
mhm,
with us today, that we would showcase maybe how to do one of them.
mhm.
Not the first one, not the second one, but maybe the third one. So you've got kind of a middle section ready to go. So challenge 1 is about some Star Trek stuff and some TED Talk stuff. Challenge 2 is the one that features little Brian, which I
Aw,
appreciate.
little Brian.
I'm on the nice list, as it turns out, which is awesome. But question 3 is all about Santa showing up at his favorite Star Trek actor's house, and he doesn't want to come without a gift. So he knows that they like wine, and he knows that they like Bordeaux from the Fransac domain. I know nothing about wine, which is also kind of fun along the way here. That was bottled in the same year as the movie from the previous one. So these kind of stack on themselves, but we're gonna build an interface to kind of help you along the way there.
Oh,
And
looking at
so,
that one, we might have a problem there, Brian, because it looks
uh-oh.
like challenge 3 does build on challenge 2.
It does. I
So-
figured we would just build the interface and then make sure the interface works. And then when you have the answer to challenge 2, you can just plug in the date that you need and get
You're
the
so
right
smart.
answer.
I love it. That sounds great.
It's not necessarily smart, Chuck. It's lazy. And this was the one that I wanted to play with. So so the question is, what's the name of the Bordeaux wine from the Francois domain released in that year? So we have a wine data set in our data sets repository.
Mhm.
And if you tuned in last week, which you should try to tune in every week, but if you happened to join us last week, we built inside of that repository a node script that can take any of the files in here and create an index in Algolia out of it. We're not going to go into that, but if you want to go into that, if you're watching on YouTube right now, it's one of our videos on YouTube. If you're on Twitch right now, be sure to go over to our YouTube channel and you can find all the previous dev chats there. But the nice thing is we can run this and we can get the wine file up into our index instead of copying and pasting or uploading any of that nonsense. We can do it programmatically. So what we can do, in fact, like get our VS Code here is like, nope, for performance issues, we're not even showing you everything in this document. So we want to get all the Bordeaux's into our index. And so I can run node ingester.js and I can pass that the file that I need. So it's going to be in the wine directory at, I'm going to see if I can spell this correctly, Bordeaux.json.
Look at all those vowels.
And there it is. Uh-oh, I have an error. Okay, that's probably fine. 924. I think that's probably how many we need. Testing things would have been good beforehand, but let's take a look at. I have a testing application. It already has the TED Talks in here from last week when we were playing with it last week, but
this is okay, right? So what happened is it looks like our JSON document doesn't actually include object IDs. Make sure that that's actually true. Yep. So it's good to have object IDs within your JSON document, but if you don't, there is actually a flag that we can add that'll have it generate those object IDs, right?
Yep. So that's going to be inside. That's on save object.
That's on save object. Yeah. Let me see if I can grab that real quick.
Yeah, I was supposed to say I'm gonna need to grab that out of the docs.
Yep.
Docs. We're going to go in and we're looking for save objects. And let's see,
auto generate. Yep, you got it.
Yeah. And that goes as the second parameter or second argument, right?
That's right.
So here's our JSON, and then we've got an object that has auto generate, and we set that to true. I believe that's the right syntax there. Object is that, but it's not recommended to do it. I must, it's a string here. All right.
You know what I love? I love that this is the thing that you don't know, which shows that you typically have object IDs.
Object IDs, man. Always have object IDs. All right, let's see. So save objects takes the array of objects, and then this is what I've got, right? Come on. Save objects. Let's just copy and paste this. We have to get rid of that, and we have to get rid of that. True. All right. Let's try that. This is better. Still going. It's a big data set. There we go. All right.
Cool.
Now we have those, and they exist within a new index inside of my testing application. So let's take a look. Uh-oh.
Good.
Where's my wine? let's see. All of my indices. No wine here.
Hmm.
Let's
Is it
see. Did we get?
Bordeaux? Hmm.
Quota exceeded. I thought there weren't.
Oh,
Is this one of the ones that has too many?
no, but you've got several indices within your app. I wonder if maybe we've just hit
True.
the. I wonder if we just hit
True.
the limit across the app. Those TED Talks,
Yeah,
there's a lot of those.
there are a lot of those. But we can fix this. What we can do. I actually don't need any of these because we made a whole bunch of replicants last time,
Mhm.
replicas last time. So I can come in and we can get rid of some of these. So let's get rid of our courageous talks. Who needs courage, right?
And for
Manage
those that are
index.
curious, yes, we work for Algolia. Yes, we could have, massive limits on our accounts, but we try to kind of work within the free tier, just to kind of, level the playing field and sort of be where uh, I would be if I wasn't working at Algolia and I was playing
Yeah.
around with it.
And really
So,
what I would do usually in this case is I'd go and I'd spin up a new application. Um, but then I'd have to change out all my secrets and all that good stuff. And I don't want to do
yeah.
that.
And you'll
Uh,
find actually as you do these code challenges, there are a couple of indexes that we're going to be using, indices that we're going to be using for the code challenges that would just blow away your free tier account. And so what we do in those cases is we actually give you credentials so that you can use a version of the index that we host on your behalf.
yeah.
So if you search for, if you look at some of those other ones, like the movie database is pretty big. I don't think you want to host that yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, really, you could figure out if you go into the data sets and like read through the documentation there, you could probably figure out finding some of the other ones, but it's more fun to ingest it yourself.
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, so we now have, as you can see here, we're having tons of fun, but
Mhm.
we don't have this actors one anymore. But we do now have a Bordeaux set up, and each of our wines has a year and a type. And see, here's how little I know about wine. Um, I just assumed all Bordeaux's were red wines,
Mm.
but we have type as a thing. We have price and quantity, and there's an image, although that image is a base 64 encoded PNG. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think, I'm not a wine expert either, but I know a lot of it comes down to sort of the regions where the grapes are grown. And then rather whether it's a
fair.
red or a white has a lot more to do with the process. I know it has to do with whether or not you sort of leave the skins involved. That's how you get a red versus a white. It has not
That
little to do with the color of the grape and more to do with whether or not you remove the skins as you make the wine.
really
Hmm.
red wine is like skin on wine.
Well, I mean, the skin is left in the pulp. So as you're
Okay,
mashing up, you've seen the old movies of the people stepping on the
sure,
grapes. As
sure,
you're
sure.
doing that, there's a great word for what that is. If you know what that word is, um,
It's not mastication, is it? I mean, that's what you
see,
would do in your mouth.
it's something like that. It's something
Okay,
like that. But and then it just has to do with whether or not you skim off all of the skin um, as you go put the wine, into barrels to go ahead and ferment. So.
interesting. I learned
And I'm
something
probably
today that
messing
wasn't
some of
about
that up.
search.
They're probably like, "Chuck, it's not about putting skins in barrels. There's another piece to it." But I do know it has more to do with the skin than it has to do with the color of the grape.
Okay, all right. I That makes perfect sense to me because yeah, I don't know. Actually, I have no clue if that makes perfect sense to me. I eat grapes, I drink wine. That's about as far as it goes. Um, so we have all of our data all in an index. Let's figure out what we need from this data.
Hmm.
We need to be able to find things from years.
Mhm.
Basically we need to filter based on years, and we also need to filter based on domain.
Mhm.
So we need to set up some faceting unless I'm missing my guess here. And Chuck, you can tell me if I'm missing my guess because you know the answers and you know how these are supposed to work.
Faceting is a great way to do this, right? We have two attributes that we know are going to be intrinsic to how we find this wine. However, let's thinking about it a little bit. Um,
Okay.
right? If we think about our searches as a grid, right, and we have the search terms, right, the
Yep.
things that we're going to type in, and then we have the ways that we want to sort of filter that across.
Sure.
right?
Yep.
So at least one thing is going to be the thing that we're going to be searching on. Maybe, and
Do
maybe
I need
there's an
to search?
interface. Maybe there's an interface where it's all just done through controls on the categorization.
Buttons. Buttons instead of typing.
Buttons and
Let's start
menus.
there maybe. And
Okay.
some yeah, I love some menus. All right, so we've got domain and we've got year.
Right.
And let's go ahead and have a searchable attribute just because we'll want to search across name.
Sounds good.
And also, so these are all Bordeaux's, so we don't have to worry about like filtering for Bordeaux. So let's review and save these settings. Hey, look, 3 of 4 tasks complete. So as you go through these challenges, you're also checking off, the things that our dashboard is going to yell at you about. You probably need to configure these things.
Mm-hmm.
We don't actually need to configure a custom ranking on this one. So we're just going to tell the dashboard to be quiet for now.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to build a search interface. We've configured our application. We have our data. We need a search interface. So I'm going to cheat. And I'm going to show everyone how to cheat a little bit on this.
Yeah.
So if you don't like to write code from scratch, I don't. I avoid it at all costs. We actually have in the JavaScript in the node world, the npm world, there's various like create some sort of app, right? We have one of those as well. And you can run it with npx create, let's see, search app, I think. It's been a while since I've run this. Npx instant search app. There we go. Because we're using the instant search library to do this. And then it's like, hey, do you want to install the following packages? Yeah, sure. Let's install instant search, the create instant search app. So it's going to ask for a project directory, and I actually don't even know where I'm at right now. So we'll just say wine search. It can be wine search for our name. And then it's going to give us some things that we might want to choose from. We could do vanilla JavaScript, or we could do React.
Let's do
Those are the two
React.
that let's say those are the two I'd be comfortable doing. So let's
Yeah,
jump
let's
in
do
there.
React.
Let's get the latest stable version. And then we need our application ID, which we can grab from our settings for our app.
Can we use testing app in this case, or do we have to use the?
I mean, I don't mind people knowing my app ID and my
Sure,
search
but
only.
I'm just curious. Like, I've noticed that in some of the demos that I've played with, once you name an application, you can actually use the application name in some places, which is a heck of a lot easier to remember. I was just curious to know if we could actually use that. I've never seen one with a space in it before. Anyway,
I like the thought though of like, how can I break this the best? All right, our index name. What's our index name that we just made? I think it's just wine.
Is it wine or Bordeaux? Yeah, it's wine. You're right.
Well, you might be it's Bordeaux.
It is
because
Bordeaux. Yeah, because
wine was the folder, but my script automatically makes the index the file name. So in this case, it was Bordeaux. So I get to try to spell Bordeaux again. Bordeaux? I mean, I suppose I could have, hold on. Copied. Copy and paste is always the way to go. Bordeaux. And then it's going to ask for some things that we might want to display. So this is actually, it's going to walk us through based on our index, which is, I think, super cool, what we might want to have. So for our attributes to display, we'll say name. Sure, that makes sense.
We're very interested
in
the year.
Dynamic widgets. I want the year. Uh-oh. Well, I thought I was going to be able to select multiple there. Oh, well, it'll give us a chance to write that from scratch. And it's going to run all this fun, amazing stuff for who knows how long, probably just 30 seconds or so. But this is grabbing everything that you need for an instant search app. And it's going to put it all in one directory that we can run this from, and take off all the boilerplate that we didn't want to have to think about, and give us a real big head start in the challenge. And you can do this for each of them. You could also potentially just use the boilerplate that it gives you and put like all of your challenges maybe in one application as well. But you are going to need an individual URL of some sort for each of your challenge answers.
Yep. So one thing we're doing for this contest is we are asking you to show your work. So whether it's a GitHub repo or an endpoint of a front end or a code sandbox, however you want to do that is fine. And the other thing you should know is that this is going to work great for the majority of the challenges. But as you get into things like the geo search, where
Mhm.
we're actually kind of layering in, it's a very different type of application. You're probably going to be using Google Maps or something like that. We'll give you a link to a code sandbox that you can use as a template there too to kind of get started.
So we now have you can see it's hideously ugly here because it's just the JSON data coming in, but we have wines, and we could even do a search, right? We could find chateau, find only the chateaus along the
Mm,
way, which there are a lot of them because wine.
yeah.
Um,
You know what chateau means?
House.
Yeah.
And then we have all this lovely boilerplate already done for us,
Look at that.
including the source directory, which has CSS and our app and our index. And you can see like it's following some best practices. We're importing a whole bunch of stuff from Algolia. We're using Algolia Search Lite because it's search only in this situation. There's actually some typing happening, although I'm not going to be using that today. And then there's all these different components coming in from the React Instant Search DOM, which is what we're going to be using to build most of this. And then you can see we're returning our app. Oh, we're actually initializing our search client up
Mhm.
here, all the information that we provided in the CLI. And then we've got our actual instant search. It's got our search client and the index name of Bordeaux. And then we can grab all these things. In fact, the experimental dynamic widgets, I didn't mean to select. Like that's the thing that I selected along the way. We actually mostly just want a refinement list, but
Mhm.
we'll deal with that here in a minute. In fact, let's deal with that right now. So we have these search panels over to the left here, and we can use a refinement list, give it an attribute to refine off of. In this case, I think year was one that we had.
Mhm.
And then it will automatically create that refinement list for us. So
Look at that.
there's that done. And we need another refinement list. So why don't we copy and paste that? And the other one was domain, which
Domain. That's right.
I don't even know what domain is, to be honest, in this
Yeah.
world of wine.
I know. I know there's where the grape comes from and where it's grown and who builds it, but I don't know all of that. If you know
In this
more about
case,
wine, send us a link. We need to learn.
exactly. Let us know. Help us out here. Class name equals search panel filters. That doesn't work that way, Brian. I don't know why I expected it to, but I really did expect it to. All right. Div class name equals, I have to type all this out. If I didn't have to do that. All right. And that's going to have our refinement list here.
Mhm.
Which, thank you, GitHub Copilot. That's not what we wanted, but it's close enough. Domain.
Right.
This is just those were butting up against each other, and I want Santa to have a decent experience at all this.
This one, I wonder if we want a max value? Well, that's not too many.
No, that's not bad at all.
Okay. I was wondering if we needed a max values on that one too.
Let's see. What are we even looking for? What was the domain that we're looking for?
You think I'd know off the top of my head, but it's
The
a
Fransoc.
Fronsuck. Fronsuck?
I don't know. And there it is. So we could say, I need Fransoc domain from a specific year.
Ooh, look at we've narrowed it down to
Oh,
3.
well, hold on.
Ooh.
But now we have to figure out there's multiple within each of these.
Mhm.
Okay, let's go back to the challenge here. So he decides to be clever and get them a bottle of Bordeaux wine from the Fransoc domain. That's the actor's favorite. Excellent.
Mhm.
That was bottled the same year as the movie was released. I feel like this is a logic puzzle and I'm missing something. What do I need to do here,
Mhm.
Chuck? What am I missing here? I have too many wines. Or can Santa choose from these wines? Is that what's
No,
going on here?
it should come down to just one. You have a lot of
Oh,
wines there
well,
though.
there are.
Are those, let's see, 16,
Hmm.
32. Hmm.
let's clean up the front end a little bit so we can understand a little bit more of what's happening here. So our hit has a component. I don't actually want this because the JSON is just too messy there. We could probably bring in, I don't think I have the highlight. Let's see. How do you spell highlight? I can't spell highlight all of a sudden.
Always IGHs, right? Lots of IGHs.
Exactly. The attribute name from, I think it's props.hit. That makes sense to me. There we go. So let's do, again, front sock region. There are 80 total wines. And then in 2012, these are the ones, but there's some repetition happening. So I wonder if something's gone wrong in the way I imported. If we go to the 16, I thought, so the reason I was getting worried there about like the data was that 16 and 32, like that seems very computery. I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like this is actually only maybe one wine over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's one wine over and over again in this one. What have I done? See, here's the thing. I'm going to blame myself on this. Let's take a look at, I mean, we ran this multiple times and we got that error and it never showed up. And I'm wondering if that had something to do with it.
Yeah, I wonder if because you hit like a record limit, that it's somehow like, you know how like, so we do interesting things when you hit index limits, right? What we'll do is we'll take the records, but we won't actually show them to you. And I wonder if maybe somehow after you cleared out those other indices, you got a bunch of records that you didn't know you had.
Here's the fix for that, right? I just made a new index called Bordeaux test.
Okay.
And all I have to do is change out what index I'm using with instant search and probably refresh maybe. Uh-oh. I don't have any of my configuration. My configuration is not set up for this one.
Can I use this as a teachable moment?
For me?
No, not for you.
Yeah.
No. So the teachable moment here, right, is because we auto-generated our object IDs,
yes,
we weren't aware that they were the same records again, right? We just, the API just kind of said, okay, and it generated new IDs each time. Now, if your object IDs were something unique within your data set, right? If it was a unique ID or a combination of a couple of factors, when you went to import those records again, it would simply say, oh, I already have that record, and attempt to do an update. And so it would be updated in place. So part of this actually this is a good teachable moment of why you shouldn't auto-generate object IDs. You should always try and use something in your data itself.
Although, Chuck, now I'm concerned.
Uh-oh, why are you concerned?
Year 2014, Chateau Cos d'Esternal. 2014. I'm getting the same over and over again on this one as well.
Interesting.
So, all right, let's do this real fast. Let me pull up the data set. Again, let's assume that my ingester is doing something very wrong here. And let's take a look at the actual content. We should only find one probably with this name. Interesting. The plot thickens, Chuck.
Ooh, is the data set so that there's redundant data in the data set?
It's looking like it.
Interesting.
Oh, but this is part of the challenge. It's part of the challenge, Chuck. Part of the challenge. We need to dedupe this. Okay. All right. So we're going to dedupe this on the fly. Haven't done this. Let's take a look. First, let's get this to be a clean index. Let's see. That is going to be inside of the clear. Clear this index. All right. And the next thing we need to do is we need to dedupe this array. And you know what? I'm going to use GitHub Copilot to the full extent here. And we're going to, let's see. We've got our JSON. So what we need to do is we need to create a JS set from JSON. You set from JSON, convert set to array. The array is this, and then we're going to add it to Algolia. So when you create a set from an array in JavaScript, don't quote me on this. I would normally look this up first before just like YOLO coding here, but I'm pretty sure it dedupes it for you because a set can't have duplicates. Am I making that up? I feel
No,
like
that's
I'm making that
accurate.
up.
No,
Okay.
no, that's the whole point of a set. Is essentially it's an unordered set, and then whatever you're using is the core record. It can't be a duplicate.
Okay. So we just YOLO coded that, and let's see what happens. Okay. Not feeling super confident on this. 2,000 records. I feel like that's good. No, I don't want the quotes. All right. 2014. Okay, so we didn't dedupe it. You know what the issue was? I didn't console log all this. I have to console log things to make them work. That's just how it works for me.
Yeah. It's like quantum mechanics. It's visibility. If you don't look at it, that it didn't happen.
All right. So before we make sure I get all this commented out, I don't want to just keep doing that over and over again. So let's see. No GitHub Copilot. You've done your job. Console log set.
I'm going to play around in the dashboard while you're doing that a little bit. I did confirm that the version of the data that I built the challenges from is that same. It does have the duplicates in it as well. So I was able to get to an answer from that duplicated data. I'm just trying to remember how I did it. It was a little while ago.
All right. So what I want to see is I want to see my JSON length versus my array length. JSON.length and array length. And I don't want to console log anything else. Where am I console logging right now? Don't want the index name. Don't want my args. Don't want JSON. JSON's the issue there. Prolog pilot. I like that. Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's see. We get 1024 by 1024. So that's not ideal, right? The fact that my set is exactly the same length as my initial JSON. That's a problem. That's absolutely not what we want to have happen. So dedupe JS array using set. I feel like I'm just missing a step here.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it. Oh, I need to make an array.
What if we dedupe it in the index as opposed to in the import?
Yeah. That makes sense. That's a way of doing it.
Okay.
It's the way that I don't think about doing it, but that makes more sense than figuring out a new import. You might have to walk me through this one.
Well, it depends. Are we going to try and do it in code, or do you want to try it in the dashboard and see if it works there?
Let's do it in the dashboard. I think showcasing something in the dashboard makes sense.
All right.
Let's go back to
we've
Bordeaux.
got our Bordeaux. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to our configuration.
And
scroll down till dedupe.
Why would I scroll when I can just search?
Search is everywhere.
And then yes, we do want distinct.
Right? And we want distinct based on name. Now, I don't know if that's going to mess up other things, right? Like I don't know if there's a one with the same name in multiple years.
See, that's what I was thinking originally. Hold on.
But I think we could,
unfortunately, again, because we're generating those object IDs on the fly and not basing them on something else, I can't make this deduped
based on that unique ID. Yeah, there's not a guaranteed unique attribute. Let's see what this does. I mean, the nice thing is all we're doing is we're changing how Algolia does the indexing. It doesn't actually change the underlying data, so we're not breaking anything here. Well,
so we still have 2024 records, which is exactly what we want to see because we didn't delete anything. Now we have one of this. We assume
that we didn't lose it based on year.
Hold on. But this is interesting. It still works. Right? We only see one with our text search like this.
Mm-hmm.
So
But
will
there's
this
actually 3 years.
I'm intrigued now. Okay, so what we want to do is we need to go back to our regular Bordeaux list instead of test. And then we can go back to our front end and we can look for front sock. We only have 4 now. Now our like this is interesting, right? Our filter counts, our facet counts are wrong now because technically the number of records in the index that match are 16.
Mm-hmm.
But I display 1, which is what I want.
Mm-hmm. And then what do we see for 2012?
For 2012, 2.
Get 2 there.
Which is, that makes sense. They're 2 distinct ones. And 2013, back to 1. This is an intriguing way of handling it. However, we can also, let's go ahead and do it the other way. We've got 10 minutes left. Let's see if we can get this. I feel like this is basically what I was doing. Oh, I wasn't doing a new set. That's probably the problem. That's more of what we want to do. So inside of our ingestion script, I was doing new set. So instead of this, we're going to do an array where we spread a new set, capital S, around, not what we want though. We just want JSON. Then let's just look at, we don't need to have that anymore. So we're going to look at set. I did not copy all of that.
The one thing, hopefully not a problem, but one thing that could happen, right, is that JSON does not guarantee ordering of attributes. And I wonder if that's going to muck with our set if it somehow decides to. It feels like these are consistent records, which means they should be consistent as JSON objects as well. But if you keep running up against a wall, that's one wall I might look at.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. All right, Stack Overflow for the win. It's the same thing though, right? Oh, and then the smart but naive way. Thanks. Hash tables, sure. Do enjoy a good hash table.
Sorry, unique, interesting.
Unique by.
So that would probably run into the same problem that we had doing it in the index, right? Is that we actually need uniqueness based on a combination of attributes.
Well, but oh, yeah. True.
Alexander, I just saw the Colog pilot. I was
yeah,
off.
No,
that's funny.
Stuff. Yeah. I mean, this is what we were doing before. You could use index F and filter method. Cares index of B. Yeah. Who's okay? This is like that algorithm stuff that that always makes me sad. Duplicate character.
The last time I had to do this was actually when I was generating those 16 million boards, because there's actually 32 million combinations, but a majority of them are redundant. And so there was a lot of switching from lists to sets to try and avoid sort of those redundant board combinations.
Yeah.
Boy, I'll tell you, it really speeds things up.
True. I feel like this method is actually pretty far along with what we want here.
Yeah.
Basically for each, and we're pushing an element to a new array. As long as it doesn't include something that already has that name. But again, that's not great for the overall health of the index. Because we don't know.
Yeah, it's hard for me, not being a wine, we won't say snob, we'll say a wine person, to know like what constitutes a unique wine. Does each wine have to have a unique name? Is it a combination of the wine name plus the year? plus the type.
Each wine potentially has various vintages, which would be the years. So that would be, we'd have to make sure it's distinct on both of those things. Which
Could we simply do the import and generate our own object IDs as a combination of the name and the year?
Yes, that's a good idea. And then we
Rather than
would distinct on that, but yeah. All right. So let's see. Inside of our ingester, we don't want to do this anymore. We have a JSON object or JSON array. That JSON array, we need to loop through and add data to each one. Const normalized equals JSON map.
I hope folks are having fun watching this because I love solving problems like this.
Hurts my brain, Chuck. I want things to just to work for me. All we're going to do is we're going to return out an object that is everything. And look at the object ID, but we don't want it to be this. It's going to be item dot name plus item dot year, right? And then let's take a look at the first one. Console log normalized.
Gotta log it.
There we go. Got to log it exactly how I plan on it being logged. Okay, we have to slugify it. We have to, because that's that feels. I mean, that feels like that shouldn't work. Does it work?
There are specific requirements for our object IDs, but I don't know if one of them is that it doesn't have spaces. I don't know that off the top of my head. Let me see.
Okay. Dot object ID, and the way we would do that would be we would split it on the space, and then we would join it on thank you Copilot on the underscore. Okay, so we at least get that, and then we could even, if we wanted to get spicy about it, we could do it a different way. So what we want is, I'm getting an emergency alert, a required monthly. All right, so we've got an item.object ID that we're going to do this with on its name. So item.object ID split join plus, just for giggles, plus that. And again, I would usually do a template literal there, I think. Oh, error. Split of undefined. Oh, because object or item.name is what we want there. There we go. Chateau, Cota, Monte Castillon, Cuvée. That's a long name. Underscore 2010.
So, right. Just a little follow-up. I did go back to the docs. Object IDs are strings. They can be of any length as long as you don't exceed the record length requirements, and they can contain any character.
So spaces would have worked, but we're developers, and for the most part, we're going to be pretty upset, I think, if we have spaces.
Kind of creeps us out.
I don't like it. Alexander. I'm not sure I'm enjoying the resolving part of the real life of a developer. Struggle wall banging from time to time. Absolutely. I like to refer to it as head to desk personally. Putting my head down on my desk. Can't do that live on stream because there'd just be a blank wall behind me, but I do that regularly. Okay, so we have an object ID now that is a unique object. Well, potentially unique object ID. And so we should be able to then save that. Yeah. Just gonna showcase that real fast.
Oh yeah.
All right, and we don't. So technically, right? Auto generate object ID if not exist. We could keep that.
Let's get rid of it.
Get rid of it.
Yeah. Let's force an error.
All right. But next up, we have to make sure we have a clean index again because we haven't done that. So manage index. Let's clear that out again.
And Brian, I don't say this enough, but thanks for being the driver on most of these streams. I very much enjoy being the co-pilot to you and your co-pilot.
to me and good old GitHub co-pilot. I appreciate that, Chuck. I enjoy doing it, and as long as we figure things out, and then otherwise I get kind of sad. All right. So this should work. Nope. Array is not defined. We didn't change out one of our variable names. That's fine. And now let's just do I just kind of want to console log the entire first one just because. All right. I have an object ID that looks like that. Okay. Oh, look, there are all those new object IDs in real life. All right. No errors.
Let's see how many records we have now.
I'm guessing 1024.
Ooh.
What?
None.
Oh, Bordeaux test. I was pushing the Bordeaux
128.
test.
Look at that.
That seems way better. That seems
Mhm.
exactly like what we might want. Imagine the size that I feel like the data is bad in other ways now. Keep that in mind. Because we went from 1024. No, but okay. 128, is that what it was? Times 16. 2048, which is what we were getting as the index size. We were getting 2048. And when we no, this is perfect. This is exactly what we want, because we had 16 in each of our facets, and we didn't want 16 in each of our facets. We actually wanted one or maybe two for that one that had two distinct. Chuck, we have solved this challenge, and this challenge is trickier than I thought it was. So kudos on writing a tricky challenge.
Complete.
Well, we haven't completed it yet. We have to change our code to use Bordeaux test, and we have to confirm that it works.
Which is actually Bordeaux dedupe.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Oh, but we don't have our, because we haven't, yes, we ran into this before too. We need to go into our configuration, and we got to add those facets again. So facets, add an attribute. We want
year.
And year. Yeah, I don't like to have to actually type in here. I just want to like find exactly what I know I need.
Yeah.
And it sometimes doesn't, because it's a computer and not a human brain.
You need Copilot for web browsing.
Yeah, heck yeah. As much as Copilot has some ethical quandaries. Heck yeah. All right, let's review and save that as well. So we have a searching as well. And then now we've got our years, all of which have a much better amount. And we have our domains, and Santa should have a quality experience. So we need to come in to our refinement lists, page 3 maybe, and we'll call this domain. And up here, we want an H3 of year. Okay, so wines from the Frontesac domain, there's only 5 now. That's good. From a specific year, and again, we don't know the year, because the year we need is the answer to challenge 2, and we're doing challenge 3 right now. But if we were to say 2013, maybe that's when that movie was released, we would know that the answer is Chateau Vrai Canon Bouche. I work for a French company. I do not speak French. I took German and Japanese, and so that's where any weirdness comes from there. So
that said,
the challenge.
We're going to know how many of our coworkers actually watch our stream based on the Slack messages we get tomorrow.
The mockery that we'll get.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, and then if we guessed wrong, right, and if challenge 2 we had the wrong date, we might go to like 2014, and we'd be like, I don't know what to do. Go fix challenge number 2. So for those of you who are just joining us, what Chuck and I are doing, and have finished doing, and are now going to wrap up soon, is working through, do I still have this open? Here it is. The Algolia coding challenge, which I'm going to post a link to over in chat. We just completed challenge number 3. If you're tuning in a little bit late, don't worry. This goes live on YouTube immediately following the stream, and you'll be able to go watch it all as well. But basically what we did, to recap, is we grabbed the data source from the Algolia data sets. We need the Bordeaux. We used the ingestion script for this repository that we created live on stream last week, also available on YouTube. We ran that. We ingested what appeared to be 2048 records. We then opened up terminal, and we ran
px create instant search app.
And we followed the instructions in that, and that let us put in an app ID, a search only API key, an index name, and a few other choices. We chose React for our front end. You could have used Vue or vanilla JavaScript or even Android and some other stuff like that. All of those are perfectly fine as things that you can submit to the contest. And it gave us all the boilerplate we needed. The only thing I had to go in and do was I created 2 refinement lists based on the attribute year and the attribute domain, which were set up in the configuration in our dashboard. You could have done that programmatically as well to be facetable attributes. And that gave us a front end that looked like this. Actually, it looked like this, but imagine this with way too many records. And then the challenge asked for a wine that Santa could take his favorite actor from the Fransac domain from the year of the previous question's movie publishing date. We don't know what that is, as it turns out, but we could then say, all right, we know that we need a Fransac domain from a year. 2013 is the only one that has one. So this was our answer. However, when we got to this point, we had 16 in the Fransac domain, the same name over and over again. So we went through a couple ways of figuring out the best way to dedupe that. We started by going into our dashboard, and not in this index, but in the other one, we went to deduplication and grouping. And we said we want things to be distinct, and we told it to be distinct on name. And that got us the answer, but our facets showed that we still had 16 for each of them. So it wasn't
Also,
ideal.
we were a little concerned that these records might not necessarily be unique by name because it could actually be across multiple years.
Yep, a wine name, theoretically, for a long-standing, we call that a winery, I guess, probably has multiple years for each wine. So the next thing that we did, and I'll spare you me trying to do JavaScript sets, was we came back into our ingestion script and we created, because there wasn't one already, an object ID for each of them based on the item name. I had to split it. You don't have to, because we accept spaces in object IDs. I think it's probably best to do something about that. And then we put that together with the year that came from our data to create a set of distinct object IDs. And Algolia handled the rest for us. We pushed that into the index, and Algolia said, whoa, there's 16 of each of these, and deduped it for us on the ingestion process. I'm sure lots more technical things are happening during that process than what I just said. However, that's basically what happened.
Right.
And we logged into our dashboard, and we saw that instead of 2048, we had 128. And then when we went back to our front end, we discovered that in the domain of Fransac in the year 2013, there's one wine. And that is probably the answer to challenge number 3.
So you would need that, and then you would also need to either build a web available front end, right? A web available version of this, or push this up into a GitHub repo, and then you could send that as the answer to your challenge. For those that haven't jumped into the contest yet, you can follow the link there. There's actually a Google form to submit, and you'll see that for each of the challenges, as you go through the form, there's some things that we have to ask you up front. But as you kind of move into the form, you'll see that there's actually a place to submit your answer. And then, yeah, sorry, we require, but yeah, there you go. And the front
also, yeah, it's also good to know when you start the form, when you fill out that first page, we're going to send you an email that's going to let you into our Discord server. It's a secret Discord server. It's just for this competition, just for this coding challenge. So along the way, if you have any additional questions, not only can you go and ping us on Twitter at one of those or at Algolia, but you can also join the Discord and you can ask questions in there, talk about what you're working on, maybe with other people doing the challenge, and kind of help each other out. And we'll be in there as well to help along the way.
Yep, we'll be hanging out there as well. So there you go. I think the one other thing to to once again reemphasize is that the reason that we got into so much trouble with this duplicative data
Duplicative. Yeah.
is that we tried to use the auto generate object ID within the
Yep.
Algolia API, and so it treated each of those records as new and different. And it once again reinforces, and we said this earlier, that really generating a good unique object ID, hopefully based off of whatever the source of truth is of your data, and
Mhm.
making sure that that goes into your index as well, that goes a long way to solving a lot of these problems. So we're smart enough to know that if the ID matches, you're either doing an update or you're sending us the same data again, and we're not going to generate a new record for you.
Absolutely. And that's you can see like things happen behind the scenes. Again, we pushed 1,000 like 1,000 records up to Algolia, and it knew what to do when it found a whole bunch of similar object IDs. It knew what to do with that. So if you keep your object IDs clean, your index should theoretically stay pretty normalized and clean as well. Object IDs are good.
Yes. Right on. That was fun, Brian. It's always
That was a
more
good
fun
one.
when we solve the problem, right?
Exactly. It'd be sad if we didn't. And I'd probably still be here. Like I'd be like, Chuck, you can go ahead and go. I'm going to figure this out. I can't help it.
Well,
So
I'm
yeah,
glad we get to go because I think I'm going to go hang out over on the Discord for a little while. So
exactly. Come hang out. I'll be in there as well, and get your questions answered if you have any, or just make the challenges. Get the challenges done and submit them and win yourself a new iPhone or new was it Samsung
Samsung. Mhm.
S21 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
All right.
it says it in the rules. You'll see what kind of phone you're getting there. And check out that
Exactly.
developer hub too. Let us know what you think of the new
True.
Algolia developer hub.
Yeah.
It's got that new website smell, and there's still some opportunities to clean things up. Find some links that maybe we didn't quite get linked up appropriately. Let us know so that we can clean it up a little bit. But I think it's looking pretty good.
Yep. Come hang out with me tomorrow for the 11D meetup and Chuck for Battlesnake on Thursday as well. And
Hmm.
again, we'll post about that over in Twitter in various ways. All right. Well, thanks so
Cool.
much for tuning in. Thanks so much for hanging out.
Yeah.
And we'll see y'all in the Discord and in other spots on the
Yeah.
internet.
And thanks for the moral support, Alexander. We appreciate
Yes.
seeing folks kind of commenting in the chat, and especially when we get to those low points in the coding. So
Why doesn't this work? At least someone's here to see it.
exactly. Take care,
Thanks,
everyone. See you
y'all.
later.